Don's perfect job for a 14-year-old because hell, a monkey could plow. You just dig a ditch from one end of the field to the other, and you turn around and you put that wheel down in that ditch and you follow it back, and the tractor can't go anywhere. You don't even have to steer it, and it doesn't go fast. You know, you can jump off and pee and it'll catch up to the tractor, and so it's, you know, not much a 14-year-old boy can mess up. And so that was my job. But here was the best thing about this fall and this job. This farmer, now this sounds like I'm going to tell a joke, but it's the truth. This farmer had a daughter. And she was a good-looking girl, and of course, she was a couple years older than me, which made it even more enticing. So every morning when I climbed on that tractor, I'd sit down in that seat, and from dawn until dusk, I would think about that girl, and I would daydream, and I would think about what I was going to say to her, because, you see, it even gets better. She would bring me my lunch every day at noon. She would walk across that freshly plowed ground in her bare feet with a little brown sack with my lunch in it, and she would bring it right up to the tractor, and usually had an old jug of iced tea or something. And so I would daydream all morning about what I would say to her and how I would be so smooth, and I would just win her over, and then we would ride off into the sunset on that tractor, just me and her, as the credits rolled. I had it all planned out. But the truth is that every time she got close enough to hand me that little sack of lunch, I choked up. I mean, I could barely swallow my sandwich, much less say anything to her. So I never said a word to her. Nothing ever happened. And I'm sorry I even brought this up, because now I'm depressed. No, I'm not. No, I tell you this to this kind of illustrates I kind of put myself, I made myself that character. I put him in this story. Anyway, here you'll see. Trust me, the introduction's much better than the song. But now you got to listen to it. You know, there ain't nothing sweeter than drawing a dipper of good clean water from an old hand-dug well. And there ain't nothing harder than raking alfalfa and waiting around for the sound of that noon Dinnerbell. That's when I'd take off my old straw hat and go up to the big house where we'd all gather round under the elm tree to soak up some shade and eat some good country cooking, and if I was real lucky, she might even look at me. She was strawberry hair and blue ocean eyes. She was lilac, she was clover, and I bet good money she was sweet as honey 10 times over. But it's back to the fields to work like the Dickens, and they'd come pick us up of a late afternoon. And if I could get me a good enough seat up on that wagon, I could almost smell her roses' perfume. She was strawberry hair and blue ocean eyes. She was lilac, she was clover, and I bet good money she was sweet as honey 10 times over. At least that's what I wrote on this folded up note that I kept in the bib of my overalls. A bunch of pretty words I was saving for when I got brave and went up to that big house to pay her a call. Which I did one evening with some fresh cut flowers and I had my hair slicked back and my shoes all shine. I never imagined, I never even considered that she might be in any arms other than mine. I was stabbed in the gut, kicked in the heart. At least I might as well have been, because you see, the windows were open and the curtains were blowing, and I'm sorry that I ever looked in. I jumped off the porch and I ran back down the hill to where that little footbridge goes over the stream. I watched that folded up note and those fresh flowers float away with the rest of my dreams. Oh, and I never said nothing to the boys back at the bunkhouse, because hell, they don't know the first thing about love. And to this day, not a word's passed between me and her, and I still don't know who he was. I still got hay down my collar, still got sweat in my eyes. I guess it hurt me for a while pretty bad. I let it set me back in spite of the fact that I know you can't lose what you never had. But still, there ain't nothing sweeter than drawing a dipper of good, clean, cold water from that old hand-dug well. But these days, I don't get near as excited about hearing the sound of that new dinner bell.